I have our special guest today is Juan Arango. Thank you so much for joining us today on Quarantine Break. He is an analyst, commentator, sports journalist, on-air talent, you name it when it comes to broadcasting sports, he's probably done it. That's including covering 3 World Cups, 4 Copa Americas, 5 Gold Cups, and various leagues throughout the world. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Keanu. Appreciate what you guys over at eSoccer are doing. It's tremendous, and actually, you're giving me a bit of a quarantine break as well, because I've been around the house and doing chores, so it's kind of a change of pace, if you will, compared to the past couple of days. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Can you give us a brief background about yourself and what inspired you to embark on a career as a sports commentator, analyst, on-air talent?
I don't know if it was something that I embarked. Well, I did embark on it eventually, but it wasn't something I planned. I didn't go to school for it. I graduated with a bachelor's in history and international relations. I graduated just 2 years ago with a master's degree in communications. So I was going in another path, but it kind of seemed to cross in, and it was just. I found a pamphlet at a stadium once for an international friendly, and they said, hey, look, we're opening a soccer network. This was back in 2002, 03. We'd like to start getting people. I came in as an intern. I started doing production at a network. Of course, many probably are familiar with it, Gold TV. And all of a sudden, I was there. And one day, it was funny how my first chance ever was I had microphones and cables and stuff, because I was working in production, and I'm going to my car to take everything because we're going to the stadium to do a piece. And all of a sudden, the executive producer grabs me and says, "Put all that stuff down. You're going downstairs and doing a game. You're on air in 5 minutes."
What? Had you ever called a game?
No, never. No. I hadn't even used. I use a microphone to say, "Hey, test 1 2, test 1 2." That was it.
Wow.
And they say, hey, you have 5 minutes. Okay, go on air. I go in, and I happen to go and get into the booth, and Phil Shane was there. Phil Shane, of course, who's Ray Hudson's partner over at beIN Sports now. I worked with him for a few years while he was at Gold TV. Same thing with Ray. And first thing comes about him, I never met him before at that point. And I said, first things that came out of my mouth when I met him, hey, how are you? What are we doing here?
Wow. That's amazing. How did you feel in the lead up to, say, the 30 seconds before you knew you were going to go on air live?
What I actually said, I said, what game are we doing? I had 5 minutes to prepare for what usually a commentator, now that I know, usually will take anywhere between a day or two, maybe a couple of hours, to be able to prepare properly. And it was horrible. It was terrible. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was bad. It was horrible, but I got through. I was able to overcome that. As time went by, I got a little bit more comfortable as the game went on, and that was important, because it was a matter of how I sounded, more importantly, and of course, all the finer details would come through. The philosophy was, we can teach someone that knows about soccer television. It's very difficult to teach a television person how to do soccer, or to know soccer. So it's easier to go one way than the other. And that was a formula that's been that was successful for them and for many other networks as well.
So did you grow up watching and playing soccer?
I'm from a Colombian household. That was part of our lifeblood. As a little kid, I watched a lot. Of course, I watched, Univision when I was a kid. Finally, I'm working there, so it's kind of a weird situation to see, the same network you used to watch as a kid, you're working at now. But it was radio. I listened to a lot of games on radio when I was a kid. My father would put on games while he's working in the backyard on Sundays, and it was part of that. It was part of that entire culture. Listening to games from Argentina, listening to games from Colombia, watching games from Italy, from Spain, from wherever, in Mexico, of course, being here in the U.S. And it was part of what I had to, what I grew up with. And I played organized until maybe about 2021, and then I tore my knee ligaments and just couldn't play anymore. Never played professionally. I got to like a junior college, local level, kind of amateur level here down in South Florida, but that's as far as it went.
So do you find that, what's the difference for you when you're calling games in English versus another language? Is the translation pretty, seamless for you, or do you find that there's nuances in how you have to address the audience?
All of the above, what you mentioned. Yeah, there are some nuances. There are certain things. And one thing that I've been in some productions, I've been taught, especially more Spanish speaking, be yourself, be your own, be your own person, also be able to sell the match. Don't go and say, yeah, well, we're doing a game. No, I mean, this is, man, go, come on, be excited, give some enthusiasm, because as you, I mean, it's not trying to overhype it, but also make it something that people can watch and people will stay and watch. There's been games that I've spoken to other commentators too, that they've mentioned that because of the fact that they have had such an emotional level or such an energy level, the game was horrible, but they stayed on because of the commentary. So it does add a little bit. It can also take away a little bit, but you have to find that happy medium in between both of them in order to find yourself and not become the game, not become the reason to watch a game. But you can add a little bit more, but you can also take it's like, let's say you have a great piece of, a great piece of steak, for example. And sometimes if you season it too much, it can go bad. If you season it just right, people are going to like it. And same thing, if you don't have such a good piece of meat, if you're able to season it just right, it can taste a little bit better than it actually is. So you got to use that type of comparison. Maybe a little bit too much is not good enough. Maybe just the right amount is good enough in order to be able to do it. But nuances, colloquialisms, idiosyncrasies, because you're not only commentating a game, you're also giving some background, some context, some information about what the culture is and why are fans yelling and screaming something. Why are players doing this? Why are players doing that? What's the history behind it? So you're also giving cultural information. You're also trying to add a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but without getting away from the actual objective, which is the game itself.
So in preparing for games, what are some of the things that you do when you're doing color commentary and things like that, calling a match? And then also, how did you perfect your goal?
I don't know if you look with me, and this is just me. I think that just like every day, like every situation, like every touchdown, like every strike, like every home run, they all have a different taste to it. There's not one similar. There's a lot of similarities, but there's not one exactly the same as the other. And the contexts are different, the times are different. So maybe you'll be a lot more emotional. I mean, there's some penalty kicks that okay, fine, go, everything's good. But if it's the last penalty of a match and it's worth winning a World Cup, then that has to have a bit more energy to it. There's a lot of differences between one context and the next, so you have to keep that very aware. In terms of preparation is like a constant thing because you're always reading, you're always looking for information, you're always scrolling through social media, as good or bad as that may be at times, but you have to look for information and keep yourself fresh, keep yourself up to date. And I was taught, hey, look, try and stay as relevant as possible with information as it'll stick in your head. Yeah, put some notes here and there. Do some, write-ups and stuff. So at least not only do you have a reference on a piece of paper or on your computer or on your tablet, but it also stays in your brain the more times you do that. So you even start looking at things like neuroplasticity and trying to learn quicker, trying to memorize things more, trying to become more relevant and trying to look at it from a different perspective. Fans look at the game and are watching the ball. You try and go away from it and look at what's going on outside of it so you see how things are developing. And then kind of at times be an oracle of sorts because you're anticipating what's happening in a play before it even happens.
Eli wants to know, what do you do to prepare for a match? And I know we talked about this before you got on. What's one of the visual cues that you have for yourself?
I mean, for starters, as far as visual cues are concerned, I do. I mean, I watch videos of games of teams that are, I already have a schedule of games that I'm doing. Okay, start looking at videos, or be it on YouTube. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that we have in YouTube. Whatever social media comes out, all that type of stuff to be able to do it. But actually, give me a second. I'll actually show you here real quick. Now that you mention it, see, I use one of these. You see?
Yeah.
This is actually, let me flip it real quick so you get an idea. It's not just me doodling and drawing. Once I get the lineup, that's what I do. I kind of set all the players on the field, have the subs down here. Oh, what happened? Okay, who scored? Okay, boom, boom. Okay, I put the minute. Who scored? All right, cool. Yellow cards. Obviously, this particular match didn't have anyone getting sent off, so no red cards. So you see all the yellow right here. So instead of me having to look for it and move my vision from the screen to this and start looking, I just thought, oh, okay, boom, yellow, fine, okay, fine. Oh, okay, what number? Doom, okay, got it. So now, leading up to the match, I do this. See right there?
Wow.
I do a lot of visual cues. I split it in half where I have one team's information, I have the other team's information. I already know which sectors to put certain information. So if I want to, if I go into a bit of a down period in the match and things are a bit slower, let's say, I can start throwing maybe a statistic or two. Maybe I can throw kind of a bit of information. I'll even read, hey, you know what? So-and-so's dad, I don't know, owns such and such a business. Or this referee, and I remember one time I did it when I was doing a tournament. He's a biologist. He has a degree in biology. You start looking. I've looked at referees' LinkedIn accounts to get information on them in order just to have it, just in case. It's a lot of just in case information. I've spoken to fellow commentators, and they said, if I use, 5% of the information I accumulated during the week, then I'm good. If I have to use anything more than that, then I know that I didn't do too good a job. So it's a lot of those things that you have to keep in mind. But you start looking at that. I'll show you in a minute what I also have done on things such as an iPad or even on my phone. Little things that are going on, little recordings that I make. Oh, whatever. Hey, make sure you're checking out so and so. Maybe you should check out when this guy's running in. Check out so and so's hamstring because it's a bit tender. If it goes, then you're just things like that. And you start actually. Let me show you this real quick too. Hold on. Since Eli mentioned it, you see, I have an app called. I use an app. Actually, my daughter got me into it. It was Notability. You see right there. See, I start. Hold on. I put on there, right there. See, and clip. I start clipping results of teams. Oh, who's injured? So at least I have okay. I know that red cross means that there's players that are injured. Substitutions. Oh, okay. So I put, I start clipping little pictures and little, this, okay, cool. Oh, I know, I'll talk about a goalkeeper. And I start doing that, make it really colorful so I can just look, okay, boom. Now I can at least have a cue that I remember something. My drawing is not the best, but it's good enough for me as far as getting information. Oh, they start bringing up the squad lists. They start bringing up possible lineups. So I start accumulating as much information.
How long does it take you to prepare all of that?
It depends. It depends on certain matches. Some matches are easier than others. Some matches are nearly impossible. I've done CONCACAF Nations League, and I'm trying to do a game between St. Lucia and and Barbados, and you barely find anything. So good luck with that, and you have to adjust and adapt because sometimes you have information. Sometimes you don't. St. Lucia, Barbados, you might not have much information, but if you start doing, Barcelona, Real Madrid in the Champions League, then you have tons of information. That part's easy. Those games are easy. Those St. Lucia, Barbados, and those matches where you compare, that's where you really have to start coming out and showing what you really have as far as a commentator is concerned.
We have another attendee that would like to know, do you only do commentary for soccer or have you done commentary for other sports?
I do. Actually, I do tennis over at ACC Network for the University of Miami. I also do track and field. I've been working on doing basketball and waiting for the opportunity, but hasn't arisen yet. I had a couple of chances to do it, but it just didn't materialize. So yeah, I mean, I do, and a lot of times you have to become a bit more malleable. You have to become a bit more flexible when it comes to being able to do those types of things. I enjoy it. I enjoy it fully, and I always take it as another challenge to be able to kind of diversify. You have to diversify. I mean, I'm not just only in sports, in life in general, you have to try and do that because it just gives you many more options. It gives you many more perspectives when it comes to expanding your knowledge and continuing to learn.
So you've worked with a wide variety of outlets across many countries. How have you been able to create opportunities for yourself?
It comes down to work. You have to go in and you have to put yourself out there. Don't be embarrassed to do it. Don't be afraid to do it. There'll be a lot of times you will feel very uncomfortable. I mean, I mean, my latest challenge was being a college professor, and I was like, what am I going to do here? But as people started to see that there's a genuine interest, that there's a genuine passion that you have, and it's sincere more than anything else, that people will follow you. And I was very happy when I went as a professor, and then the very last day, the students said, thank you, because you were sincere, you were honest, you truly cared about us doing well in this class. And when people see that and you just don't leave any doubt. Look, there's been moments where I've been told no, and I've been told no because of money. I've been told no for, logistical reasons. I've been told no for reasons I'd rather not share, but you can't distract you from your ultimate goal. Let's be completely honest with that. In terms of that, you have to go and keep going and keep pushing, and you're going to be told no. You're going to have a lot of doors slammed in your face. I can tell you right now. Look, I'm going to tell you right now. I had 864 rejections. 864. I counted them because at times, man, I wanted to quit.
Wow.
I wanted to. I'm like, dude, I'm done. I'm toast. I can't do this. I've been told no way too many times. But you get up in the morning and you all of a sudden say, hey, but I don't want to do anything else. This is what I want to do. This is and you just keep going. Find different ways. Now more than ever, you have outlets like YouTube, like Twitter, like Instagram, like TikTok, to be able to show yourself off and be yourself. Don't let anybody tell you to not be yourself. Oh, we have to be this. No, you don't. You have to be yourself. Be yourself and be genuine about it, because that's what makes you so interesting. And don't let anyone do that. But you have to hustle. You have to work very hard. It was funny that a couple of years ago, I had someone tell me, oh yeah, Juan, yeah, he's an up and coming commentator. Like, I've been doing this for 14 years at that time, and I'm up and coming just now.
Wow. Overnight
So,
success, 14
yeah.
years in the making.
Exactly. So I enjoy this a lot. I really do, and I can't see myself doing anything else. But I also want to see myself doing other things as well.
Another attendee would like to know, how often do you go on air?
There's weeks that I go on. Well, now I only go maybe once a week. Obviously, for everything that's going on, there's been times I do 6-7 matches a week. I've done Champions League, I've done Mexican League, I've done Spanish League, and not only in English. I'll go and have 2 games back to back. I'm doing one in English, and all of a sudden, get off the air, go into another booth, and have to do it in Spanish. So that type of thing. I've had maybe 12, 13 games a week, on top of being able to go into a stadium and do a report, and then writing out a script for a feature that I'm doing. So you can go anywhere between 1 to 14 times. That's just my situation. There's some that go maybe more, maybe less.
Okay, two quick questions about.
Yeah, ask away.
About communication. One, I know you're an adjunct professor at the University of Miami, teaching speech and communication. For people that are watching, what is one or two of your steps, one or two tips about effective communication that you like to share?
Don't try and oversimplify things, and that's one of the. I mean, don't try and overcomplicate things, I should say. Well, there we go. I messed it up already. Try and be as simple as possible, but also try and be as concrete as possible. Get to your points as quickly as you can. And that's not something that I learned in graduate school. That's something that I learned in broadcasting, because when you're on air, you can talk, you can be eloquent, but you have a certain time limit to try and make your point. And you better make it quick, and you better make it good, and you better make it concise. That's to me the most important thing when it comes to communication. But be very clear with what you say, and if you're talking about it in a professional manner, but also be very intent on what you look to do with your career, and be very clear with yourself. Be able to communicate with yourself very clear what you want to do with your life, with your career, with everything that happens. Because if you're able to understand it, then you're able to transmit it in a very positive manner, or in a very effective manner, I should say.
Okay, another question. Currently, people can see you on Univision, correct? Yeah. Okay. Have you ever considered leaving Univision and considering joining ESPN or NBC? Have you had the opportunity to do some work with those networks? Are you open to it?
Well, yeah, well, of course, everyone's open to it. I mean, it would be a pleasure, be an honor. I know many people that work at those networks, and they're, they're great individuals, great professionals. So yeah, I mean, if the opportunity ever came, yeah, but I mean, it took me, just to get into Univision, took me about 7 years.
I can believe that there's really so many opportunities, out there that.
Yeah, I mean, it took me 7 years, I mean, of knocking on doors and being told yes and maybe, and then all of a sudden no. And then going and being told, yeah, we're looking for you to join us. And I was saying, okay, 2 years later, whoa, I haven't joined you yet. What's wrong? So I mean, for me, this is a tremendous opportunity. I'm working with some great people. I'm working at a great place, and not because I'm there, I'm saying it's great. I'm just saying because the people that I know there have made it what it is. I'm just trying to add my little grain of salt, my little grain of sand into this whole operation. And I can't, I can't really say any more, give more plaudits than I have already, because I mean, to me, this has been one of the jobs that I was looking to get, since I started my career.
What have been some of the most memorable events you've covered, and why?
How much time do we have, Kiana?
Not that much. The quarantine break, just a break.
Oh, okay. Oh, just the quarantine break. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, for me, going to the 2014 World Cup in Brazil was just spectacular. Being able to become the first, or at least this was what I was told, and I ran with it because it sounded pretty cool to say, the first American broadcaster to broadcast a Copa America and be an analyst for a World Cup for a network outside of the U.S. When I was doing it for Sportsmax. When I was doing it, I've also done Copa America in Spanish for the World Feed, and I became the first American to do it abroad or for an international network in Spanish. So I mean, it's those are amazing times. Being able to travel and being able to meet these people, go to press conferences, and all of a sudden, I'm being, well, I'll be short with this one, falling, on the bottom end of an avalanche of people that are trying to get in front of Lionel Messi, and all of a sudden, Leo and I were like, I'm like at the bottom, like, dude, what can I do? I'm like looking up like this, as I had like 50 people on top of me, and Leo's like, yeah, man, it happens, and meeting those types of people, being able to interview Edinson Cavani, being able to have Neymar be our camera guy for 2 seconds, our camera guy, if you will. Right. That's an interesting tour. And eat pizza with the Brazilian national team on their team bus. Being able to go on podcasts and interview players and interview, individuals, and be able to do things with boxers and basketball players and being able to do those types of things. All of them have their little incentive, and I have such a great amount of gratitude towards that every single time. When I put stuff on Instagram, and it's not to show off. It's more like say, hey, I'm so grateful to be where I'm at, because I saw what my family had to go through as a kid. My dad was a mechanic, and he was doing, 6 days a week, 13, 14 hours a day. And to know that something came out of that hard work really tells me a great deal of what I've had to go through and my family had to go through in order to put me in the situation that I am now.
So speaking of interesting people that you've had the opportunity to come across, who have been some of your most interesting people you've interviewed and why?
I've interviewed actually, I interviewed the coach of the Haitian national team right after the Haiti earthquake back in 2010, and what he was looking to do. I mean, it was. I mean, I was really emotional when he was telling me what people in Haiti were going through during that time. Stephen Constantine, who is an English coach that actually happened to be at that time the coach of the Indian national team, and he was telling me about what was going on. I mean, there's been so many that I'm truly grateful to be, Cavani, Neymar, I've talked to Cristiano Ronaldo, I've talked to Messi, I've done all these things with these individuals. And I never found myself awestruck because when they spoke, they just seemed like, hey, I'm just a normal guy, just like anybody else. And so that took away some of that effect. And you're able to talk to them and they're able to give you much more. And, being able to sit down with players from the Brazilian national team, from the Croatian national team, like Ivan Rakitic and Luka Modric and those types of individuals, to me, that's been part of the wonder of the spectacle of being able to be part of this business. And it's been a beautiful ride.
Speaking of speaking with those players, how many languages do you speak? And I know that you are currently, I believe, working on a fourth language.
I'm currently working on Italian. I was trying to work on French, but I guess I just got sidetracked a little bit and started working on Italian. I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish, and I speak English, obviously. I don't think I had to mention that, did I? Yeah. But that last part, but still, I did anyway. And it's because of this, because it's such a global. It's a global game, and it's something that you might have information in another language that if you only speak English or you only expose yourself to media in English, then you're kind of limiting yourself. You're kind of putting yourself in a bit of a corner compared to everyone else. So you have to go. Obviously, I learned Spanish before I learned English, but still, that's something that my parents inculcated in me. They always said, hey, speak Spanish, speak Spanish, speak Spanish. And but actually, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to speak in English at home. I'm like, no. You speak in English in school, Spanish here. And at first I'm like, why? Now, as I got older, I realized that was the best thing that they could have done for me because it helped me speak Spanish. It helped me do commentary in Spanish and English. So, why not? Now I'm trying to do more in Portuguese. And eventually maybe do a couple of things in Italian, and it just helps you in terms of that.
Eli would like to know, how long have you been with Univision formally?
Formally, I've been with them since August.
Congratulations.
So that's why I can't consider leaving already. I mean, Eli asked me that question recently, right?
I think someone asked me about,
Yeah, someone asked, hey, would you want to leave? I'm like, I just got there, man. But yeah, I've been there since August, but also I've done games on a freelance basis for them in the past. And with every game that I did, the more they wanted me to come back. So, I mean, like I said, I'm very grateful for them.
For students that are interested in pursuing their love of sports and language and broadcasting, what are some resources you would suggest?
Look on LinkedIn. Look on LinkedIn and try and find some commentators. Try and find them on social media. I mean, not just me. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about whoever your favorite commentator is, and try and ask them questions. Try and find your own style. How would you decide to cover an event? I'm not talking about commentary. I'm talking about how would you do a feature? What voice do you offer to this business in order to be able to set yourself apart from everybody else? Everybody has their own voice. What are you able to do? Get feedback. Constantly make sure that you're going to screw up, and you're going to screw up a lot. You are. It's just part of nature. Now, if you screw up and improve off of that, then it came out fine. It actually helps you grow a little bit. But if you just kind of whatever, try and keep it safe, then that's not really going to help you either. So try and go out there, experiment a bit. We're living in a great time, believe it or not. I mean, we're all, locked in our houses or our apartments or whatever it may be. But we live in a great time where you can experiment, where things are going to go wrong, things are going to go bad. But if you learn off of it and grow off of it, you start seeing that curve and say, oh, look where I was a couple of months ago or a couple of years ago. Man, I got better. So try and improve constantly. Try and find out all types of content you can, because that's the first step of many steps that you're going to be taking throughout your career.
What is the best piece of career advice you would give your younger self?
Don't be afraid. A lot of times you end up having moments where you're like, damn, don't be afraid, and don't let the ninja intimidate you. and I say that because I've done career fairs before. I've done career days at schools, and I did it when my daughter was very little. And I went to one year, and I go in, and I'm with a plate microphone, and they're like, oh, great. I'm like, man, what did I do wrong? Oh my God, what am I doing? I mean, the kids had fun. They were entertained with me, but they're like, oh, okay, when are you going to start doing tricks? I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened was one of the parents happened to own a dojo, and he did martial arts, and he knew how to do backflips, and he had Chinese stars, so he dressed up as a ninja. So he jumps into, starts doing flips and starts doing that. I happen to see him, and I'm like, I can't compete with that. So that's why I said, don't be afraid of ninjas. So it gave me, I mean, it was funny. It gave me a false sense of security. I'm like, man, I can't compare with this guy. You're going to have a lot of those moments, but make sure that you're always going to come through with that. Make sure that you stay true to yourself. Make sure that you stay true to what you really want to do. And I'm not just talking about broadcast. I'm talking about anything you go into, because that will happen. That will occur in your life. And of course, I came in second place in that career day as the most popular speaker. Of course, the ninja was number one. We beat out the cops, we beat out the firemen with their fire truck, and so the usual ones that end up being amongst, and the bus driver who always brings the bus and takes the kids around for a spin. We beat those guys, so I was very proud of that. But I could never beat the ninja. I just could never beat the ninja.
So if students want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
On Twitter, it's Juan_Arango. My same hashtag, or my same handle over on Instagram. You can find me. Oh, actually, I have a TikTok account. Is it Juan G or Juan Arango? Juan G Arango K over on TikTok. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And if you have any questions, please ask. Please ask, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And hopefully, maybe I see you over. Well, not at the University of Miami, but over at Barry University. If you end up, in the future, I don't know how old your students are, but if eventually they end up getting there and they take a course, we'll make sure you try and pick my class.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of the amazing things that you've done in your journey.
Oh, no, I appreciate you having me. And as always, you're doing a great job, and I'm so happy to be a part of this. Trust me, it made my day, to be honest with you. It really has.
For students that are wanting to tune in with us for the next quarantine break at 1 o'clock, it will feature former WNBA player Marla Brumfield-Lewis, and that we're going to talk about scoring beyond the arc. So thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great day. Ciao.